Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Meeting, and the district let me use their boardroom, so I put it in the paper, and I think about 20-some parents showed up, and I explained what my philosophy was. And I told them, from a football standpoint, I believe on, here's what it is, I use COACH as the acronym.
Sure.
And coaching, C stands for consistency. Or I'm sorry, your convictions. What do you stand for? Who are you? What are you going to do with our students? What do you believe in? So I went over that with them. And then I believe in in other words, repetition, just like you do in the fundamentals in any sport. You teach the fundamentals, and you repeat those things, so when in the game, it's automatic.
Right.
Same thing, reading, writing, history, math, computers. That's what I told them. This is what we're going to do. Geography, whatever it was.
Right.
This is what we're going to spend our time doing. We had no athletics at the time because we were too small. We couldn't afford it, even though that was where a big part of my life was.
Right.
And so I explained that. And I said, I'm only going to take 30 freshmen that first year. And so then I had a couple other meetings, and other parents talked to other parents, and the crowd got a little bit bigger. And I think we were in a group of 60 that were coming. And I said, our goal is to open up, and I told them we were going to be a business complex, which is across the street.
Right.
All these other businesses there. And so I took out my credit card and put a down payment on, I'm going to rent these buildings. And then I was fortunate because the students I had at Center City High School followed me over and left the district and followed me over, and I was still teaching them while we were also doing these other things. So there was
So they left public school and came over to charter.
We're still public.
Okay.
Charter schools are public.
Charter's public, but they left the district,
Escondido
and came over to charter.
Right.
Okay.
That was neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that very first
that
year,
says something about you and your teaching style, obviously.
Well, and building relationships.
Yeah, but the leader that you are, people follow.
So we had this freshman class, and that's all we had. Traditional seat time program, and then we had the independent study. We grew so fast that first year. By the end of the year, we had over 180 some kids in independent study.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I mean,
first year.
Wow! And so I had to hire people.
That's amazing.
And when I started the school, and I'm not putting anybody down because I had there's a lot of great teachers that are there for kids.
Sure.
But they're kind of held back a little bit because of the union and all that stuff. Really great people that care about kids. But when I left the district, I didn't want to hire anybody that had that district mentality.
Right.
Because the whole purpose of the charter schools, can you improve pupil learning? Can you use your taxpayer dollars that go to kids wisely? Can you and it was part of the 7 things that they had for charter schools back then when it was approved in 92, was it would be competition, because competition brings out the best in anything, which obviously I believe in.
I do too.
That entrepreneurial spirit. I like that part of it. So anyhow, so I explained all this stuff to parents, and there were enough for the traditional classroom program that with their kids. And I still, as I look back, I can't believe they did, but they did. Because everything we have was borrowed. I borrowed from the Navy. We had the desks we had were those old hard seat.
The metal ones,
yeah, stuff like that. Everything was borrowed. Yeah. My desk, everybody's was. But the kids,
we made it work.
We made it work, and then from there, the next year, we were going to add on a sophomore class. Then the next year, the junior class and the senior class. And I thought, by the time we're done, we'll maybe have 150 kids in this school over there.
School, yeah.
Well, because of the people wanting in, we ended up with eventually 600 students in our individualized learning program.
Oh my goodness. And this was year what?
By then we had now transitioned, we were still over there, and we'd taken over just about all of that facility.
Right.
Over there. so when we were still over there, so it wasn't until 2003 that we moved over here, and we were the first charter school to ever build our own campus using private bonds.
Right.
And I don't know if you heard that when I was sharing that with Neil, because he was asking, well, how did he couldn't remember, even though he was on our board, he just couldn't remember back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going too long or not.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
You sure?
You've got all the time in the world.
Okay. Because I'm jumping around here.
One of the beauties of this is not radio. This is a podcast.
Okay.
We have as long a time as you'd like to take.
Yeah, and you can cut whatever.
You're doing great. You're doing
so
great.
Anyhow,
I'm not cutting anything.
so my goal was, once I started seeing how we were growing, I started thinking to my business manager back then, a guy by the name of Dave Montana was a big help to me. We started thinking, let's build our own school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it had never been done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at a charter school convention up in Sacramento. I'm walking down the road and I see this government financial strategies. I had no idea what they did or anything like that. But I walked in. I said, what are you guys? Well, we do bonds for school districts. In other words, you go out and we sell bonds for school districts. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'm a charter school. We're a public school. And the charter schools were fairly still really known. A lot of people didn't know a lot about them. And the guy.
You were one of the first in California, weren't you?
Yeah.
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 You were a real pioneer in this.
Yeah. And I didn't know that at the time.
No, I know. But it, as you look back, that was.
So I walk in there and they said, more than likely, because you only have your charter back. You only had your charter for as you well know, because I remember you were on the board meeting.
Yes, sir.
You only get them for every 5 years. You have to go back and get them renewed.
There are people that still remember that board meeting, by the way.
Yeah. No, that was unbelievable.
That really was.
But up until that group that you came to,
mm-hmm.
we were just a high school, right?
Yeah.
So I had been involved politically because I learned way back after what happened to me at Escondido High School. Mm-hmm. You better be involved. So I was involved, helping get board members, and not that I'm a big political anything, but Diane and I worked hard at making sure we had good people on our high school board, and knew the superintendent. I grew up with the business manager because he started teaching a year after I did, so I knew him very well and all that stuff. So anyhow, I'm up there and they said, chances, because you only get it for 5 years. Mm-hmm. Who's going to loan you? What are you going to need? And I said, well,
you'll need a charter every 5 years.
Yeah. Who's going to loan you money? At that time, we wanted $9.2 million to build just phase one, not not the gym or the theater.
Exactly.
Just this.
Mm-hmm.
They said, you better go to the rating agency. So I went to them and I met with them, mm-hmm. and they just kind of laughed at me and said,
kind of wrinkled up their nose.
You know, we're not going to sell bonds to any private people that are going to invest in something. You could be gone in 5 years.
Right.
You know, at that time, our renewal, I think we had 3 years left before we had to go to renewal.
Right.
But anyhow, that's not going to happen.
They're going to take that risk.
So I went back to the government financial strategies and I said, the rating agencies turned us down. And they said, well, let me get the head of our company. She was a young lady that had started this company and really a dynamic person. Mm-hmm. Lori Ranieri was her name. So they finally talked to her and said, got her on the phone. She called me and she says, well, what are you trying to do? You're a public school. I understand that and everything. But you want the district to go to general obligation bonds? I said, no, the district can't. We have to go out to the private bonds if we're going to do this. She says, well, let me come down and visit it and see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So she came down and visited us, and I said, we got a great working relationship with our high school district. She went over and visited with them. Mm-hmm. She says, how about city council? And I was involved there, mm-hmm. knew the city manager, all the city council members and people that I had helped over the years, mm-hmm. and knew who I was and everything. She went and visited them. What do you think of? Oh, this is great. We'd love to have another a charter school moving in here. And so she talked to them, and then she called me back. She says, can't guarantee you anything, but let's put a package together mm-hmm. and see if anybody will bite on this. Mm-hmm. So she did, and we went out to the market. Crickets.
Oh my
The
gosh.
last day it was open, one company, General Capital, out of, and I can't even remember now, I gotta go back and look, but they bought all the bonds.
All of them.
Yep. The
9.2 million.
Yeah, at that time, I think we borrowed $9.2 million.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
were, because of the risk, we were paying 7.8% interest
Mm-hmm.
to the people that bought the bonds for their investments and stuff like that. And we really had to script and save. And when I told the staff as we were growing over the years, I always kept them informed all the time. We always had all staff meetings and things like that, because when I came from the district, the teachers never knew what was really going on. So I let them know about everything, where the money was, what was coming in, how we were going to spend it. So I told them, our goal is to build a decent high school campus.
And I think that was vital, Coach. I really do. Everybody I've talked to that's been here a long time, they've been here a long time because you were very open with them.
Yeah.
And they were as involved as the board members were in terms of what was happening with the finances.
Yeah.
Nobody gets that.
Yeah.
Nobody gets that. It made you unique and special in how you built this.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
So I appreciate that. But I don't think as you're going along, you're not thinking, I'm just thinking, hey, this is an opportunity here. And so fine, we did that.
Mm-hmm.
And we built the campus over here. Now we have this, the guy that owned that was really nice to us. He said, tell you what, I'll sell you this. And by then we've been in business since 96. This is 2003 now, right? We're getting ready to open at the high school. And parents by then, please start a K-8 school.
Right.
We want to get our kids out of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't grow, Diane was an elementary school teacher for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it really is.
It's just different. And I said, I know, but we got this facility over here.
Mm-hmm.
So we started out small. I think we started out with one class of 20 in a kindergarten class and 20 in something, and we filled it up right away. Mm-hmm. And now we have 4 classes of each.
Yeah. So
that's what we did with that over there. So we kept that facility, and that turned into our K-8 over there. Exactly. Our high school was here, right? Mm-hmm. And then because we had, and then I don't know if you were familiar with East Valley Parkway, but it was considered a blighted area. Yep. Because we had an old movie theater that went out of business.
I remember.
I remember.
And it was right over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was where the theater was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was back over in that corner. And there were some other businesses here. Mm-hmm. There was a barbecue place and anyhow. Yeah. And then they ended up going out of business, and they tore all that stuff down. It was just a blighted area.
Yeah, it was awful.
And then they wanted to sell that, so I bought the property. We had to put the money aside. We had been putting aside. Now let the teachers know why. You may have to sacrifice, but we kept our class sizes to 20, mm-hmm. whereas the district, they're in the 30s and 35, mm-hmm. so they didn't have as many kids. So that was a plus for them. So anyhow, I'm trying to shorten this as much as I can.
Well, let me just jump in. So one of the things that attracted us, the class size and the involvement that the teachers had with each student. You just don't have that. And in public school, like you were saying, there's 30, 40, 50 kids in a classroom. Correct. They don't have time. Yeah. They're scrambling to try to manage everything. And so what was amazing for us was all of the teachers here knew our kids' names, and they knew what our kids' challenges were, knew what their strengths were, knew what their personality type was, knew us, and knew that they could call us if they needed to. We had their back, that kind of thing. We had to sign a contract that we would be involved in our students' education. Yeah. We couldn't have been happier about this if we tried. That's how we knew we had a fit here.
Yeah, and again, and that was the goal from day one, because coming as a football coach, you wanted to make sure that you knew the kids, yeah, and the families knew who you were, and just like you were talking about.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
We wanted to run the school that same way.
And that's why it was so popular. It was so popular because we certainly were. We were in private school. We had the kids in private school, Christian school over here. We were thirsting for that kind of relationship. We were thirsting for that kind of contact and that kind of involvement. And you created that. And that was a big, big reason why we signed on here and then became probably some of the biggest fans here in terms of promoting the school and everything, and you and everything that you did. I mean, we couldn't have been happier. And our children, I shared this with you, our children were so well prepared for college that they were literally tutoring their classmates on how to do their reports. They were tutoring their classmates on how to get through college because they knew how to get through college from going to school here.
Yeah.
Well, you prepared them.
And that was the goal. I wanted to know everybody. I wanted the teachers to know everybody.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep it small because could have we grown, we could have 2,000 if we wanted to.
Absolutely.
But that's not what we went in business to do.
Exactly.
What our business model was, education is our business. We're going to keep it so we know the kids. We know who they are.
Well, and that's where the essential is. The
and
essential
like
to
said,
me, yeah, you stayed within your mission.
Yeah.
Literally, you stayed within your mission, and you didn't take. Steve Jobs once said that the best thing they did was say no to almost everything. Yeah. Right? It's more the things they said no to than the things they said yes to. Yeah, and it's that staying focused and staying on that message and staying in that mission. That's a big part of your success. And I'm saying that from a parent who has, we have 2 kids that have graduated from here. Michael took off like a rocket ship at middle school. And so did Madison. Madison did really, really well. She had her challenges, but she did really, really well. And she did well because people paid attention. Her teachers paid attention, and they were communicating with us about encourage her here, help her here, that kind of thing. And it's essential, absolutely essential.
Well, hopefully we'll maintain that. Obviously, I used to know all the students' names.
Oh, sure.
Now I'm not on the day-to-day. Sean Roner's doing a great job at keeping our culture going.
I agree with
and that. Because again, go back to the fundamental values.
Yeah.
Who are you? In football, it's blocking and tackling. That's the fundamentals to prepare you for the game. Same way here, it's staying focused on those fundamentals, which is reading, writing, math, and we've added a lot of things that also traditional American culture and values is really important to us and has been. We've maintained that. We have Veterans Day assemblies. We have Patriot Day assemblies. We want our kids to study the great books. Sean has done a great job of doing that now, even down to the junior high level. That everybody said, oh, those kids aren't going to be interested in that. But they are.
Well, kids are interested in they will rise to the standards that you set.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the key.
But you've got to enforce them.
Yep.
Okay. And like I was sharing with you before we started this, I literally enforce standards with my children, just like I believe my grandfather would have. I raised them exactly the way my grandfather raised me. And I absolutely was that immovable object. There was no question. And the thing about here, and I was on the board for 4 years, you remember that.
Yep.
The thing about this organization, and I'm talking about all the schools, but mostly your leadership, the thing about this place that makes it so special is you never wavered from it. You never wavered from it. It wasn't, oh, well, let's not do this year, or let's not do this, or let's not recognize this. It was never a question. And I think that's part of your upbringing. I think that comes from being from Ohio and football and Coach Embrey and just the way that your life prepared you for this. And I'm a true believer that God throws challenges in your life to prepare you to someday come alongside somebody and help them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's exactly what happened.
Because that's what we do.
When I got let go at Escondido High School after 21 years, and then they transferred me over to Orange Glen, and this was during Easter vacation.
Oh my gosh.
I was called in and said, when you come back, we want you to report to Orange Glen High School. So fine. Yeah. I did. And it was great. But I didn't like it at the time. But as I look back, just like you're talking about, that was preparing me. Did I have an idea that the charter movement would come out, that I would ever start anything like that?
No, but God did.
But yes. So preparation, just like you're talking about.
It's amazing.
So it's amazing as you look back at your life, you can see how things you didn't, did I like the fact that different things happened? Mm-hmm. No, but also it prepared me for what I ended up doing.
Yeah. Well, think about it. All those awful things that happened in your childhood got you here out of necessity.
Think about that.
And you come across Coach Embrey, who completely transformed your life.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You can't write that script, Coach.
Yep.
There's no way.
No,
I couldn't have come to you back in Pennsylvania or back in Ohio and say to you, you're going to be in Escondido, California as a freshman.
Exactly.
Right? You're going to be living in your uncle's garage. Yeah. You'd have laughed at me. You'd have told me I was crazy.
Yeah. No, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
it's
to make a long story short, I've been blessed. God has blessed me, looked over me, and thanks. I've had a lot of great people in my life, and obviously I've been fortunate to have good, well, just like you.
So
I appreciate that.
let's talk about today. Now we're up to today.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the latest with American Heritage Charter Schools?
Okay, the latest is my role has changed. We have a foundation, so I'm still the president and founder of the schools, and I run the foundation. And the foundation's purpose is to support the schools in any way we can.
Okay.
So that's what I do. I got back Sean Roner, who has been with me now going on 25 years.
Yeah.
I turned the day-to-day situation over to him because I had some health problems that we won't talk about.
Yeah.
That's not important, but I still enjoy coming. I still doing the challenge. We're still working on some projects, but Sean runs the day-to-day operations, and they have still the high school board, the Escondido Charter High School board, and the K-8 board, and he's the executive director over both of those schools. And we have some principals at each one of those schools, and honestly, we still have a huge waiting list to get in.
Yeah.
But keeping, like you said, holding to our guns. I don't know how many people approached me. They want me to start a charter school in San Marcos. I could have gone to San Diego. I could have gone. That's just not. I cared about our community, our parents' choice here in our community. Our independent study kids can come from anywhere around the county. Traditional, there's boundaries where they have to come from. And so we're trying to keep our class sizes still small.
So our test, sorry to interrupt, our test scores are still some of the highest in the county, right?
Yep.
And that was one of the things that I remembered the most about being on the board was we went over test scores. We reviewed those on a regular basis so that every year so that we knew where we stood. And we were tops, countywide and tops in the state. And, I talk to people a lot. I talk to a lot of people being in real estate. I talk to a lot of people that are looking for homes and they're looking for the next place to live. And, they'll talk to me about the Poway Unified School District. And what's interesting is the Poway Unified School District isn't ranked as high as we are.
Exactly.
And so I'll have them look at this school in particular and look at the rankings, and they're just blown away. And what happens is they start looking at Escondido in terms of real estate instead of a Poway where they're not going to get as much money.
Well,
But I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it now for a long, long time, and probably 20 years now. But it's interesting that, I mentioned to you before we got started that we interviewed Alan Nevin the other day. Alan Nevin's one of the top economists in the nation. Alan Nevin was talking about school districts the other day when I was interviewing him on our podcast. And he literally said on our podcast, in our interview, he said, if you, in San Diego County, if you follow, and he said, and this is true everywhere, if you follow the top districts, the top public school districts, and in San Diego, it's San Diego and Poway, the top, in the county. He said, if you follow those, you'll see that home values in those areas consistently do better.
Yes.
Okay. The thing about it is that you're also a magnet here. You're a magnet here, just like Poway is, and just like San Diego is. You're a magnet for Escondido. And property values in Escondido, I would submit to you, have been supported because people want to live here and they want their kids to go to school here.
Well, it's nice to hear.
I promise you that's happened because I've seen it happen.
Wow.
Okay. So that's a big deal. That's a big, big accomplishment.
Yeah, because families moving in, the first thing they look at is all the public schools.
First thing.
And just like I said, to cap this off, I don't know if it was Lincoln or I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. I think it was Abraham Lincoln that someone said, I hope to live long enough to, by the time I leave this earth, that people will say, because he lived, God gave him those years of life on this earth, that he was able to make a little bit of difference.
Oh, you made a huge
good.
difference.
God is really the one that has blessed
and
given me these opportunities, because the old saying, a lot of people are given opportunities, but they don't take advantage of them, or they don't have the abilities. God has blessed me with the opportunity, and then he provided me the abilities that I ran a football program, but it's not like I had run a big business or anything like that. he gave me those abilities to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I
agree with that.
I don't know where they came from.
Yeah, you can't write this script.
Yeah, so
There's no way. There's no way.
It keeps going back to thanks to my family,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously the way they brought me up,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously Coach Embrey, Diane, and the good people that I've had a fortune enough to be around like you. That's what makes it all possible. God has blessed me in that way.
Yeah.
So
I
I've
agree
got a lot
with
to be thankful for.
I agree with that.
So thank
Coach,
you
thank
for
you. Thank
doing.
you. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.